Narayanam namaskritya naram cheva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiraye nashtaprayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati neshtaki. Hare Krishna. So we'll read preface and little introduction today. Next week we'll start with the verses. Preface. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. We must know the present need of human society. And what is that need? Human society is no longer bounded by geographical limits to particular countries or communities. Human society is broader than in the Middle Ages, and the world tendency is toward one state or one human society. So what is Prabhupada actually trying to say here? Earlier, people were divided geographically, and amenities were not available to travel. So that's why Prabhupada is saying that there were some limitations, but now human society is now broader than in the Middle Ages. So that is the and the tendency of everyone is to become in a one state, under one rule, or under one human society. So what does Prabhupada give as the solution? The ideals of spiritual communism according to Srimad Bhagavatam are based more or less on the oneness of the entire human society, nay, of the entire energy of living beings. The need is felt by great thinkers to make this a successful ideology. Srimad Bhagavatam will fill this need in human society. It begins, therefore, with an aphorism of Vedanta philosophy, Janmadya asya yataha, to establish the ideal of a common cause. So very interesting what Prabhupada is saying here. Only platform on which human society can actually become one is on the platform of spirituality. And Prabhupada calls it as spiritual communism, where there is one cause, there is one state, there is one purpose. And we see also that the great Acharya, Shankaracharya, he also says, Eka Shastram Devaki Putram Geetam. Eko Deva Devaki Putra Eva. So, if there is at all one Shastra one should read, that is Srimad Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, which will unite everyone on the platform of on the spiritual platform. Another very important point Prabhupada says here is, the need is felt by great thinkers to make this a successful ideology. So, great thinkers means, Prabhupada is actually calling the spiritualists, the munis, the philosophers, who study these literatures and present them to the general public, so that they can get benefit of that realization or the study the great thinker has done. And Prabhupada says this gap will be filled by Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam Mahamuni Krite. Krite means one who has written it. Mahamuni Krite means a great, great thinker, and that is Vedavyas. And the very fact that Srimad Bhagavatam is beginning with the Vedanta aphorism. What is that Vedanta aphorism? Janmade aseta. Everything is coming from one cause. So, in fact, the whole society is looking at that only. People don't want to be divided on religion. People don't want to be divided on so-called concocted cultures. Reading from purport, the preface. Human society at the present moment is not in the darkness of oblivion. It has made rapid progress in fields of material comforts, education and economic development throughout the entire world, but there is a pinprick somewhere in the social body at large, and therefore there are large-scale quarrels even over less important issues. And this is a fact. Prabhupada also says every small issue is politicized, and the whole focus of the general public is diverted to that. The whole energy of the social body is diverted to that. And in that sense, what happens? The very fact that human form of life is meant for a higher cause is lost. There is need of a clue as to how humanity can become one in peace, friendship, and prosperity with a common cause. Srimad Bhagavatam will fill this need, for it's a cultural presentation for the re-spiritualization of the entire human society. So this is another second cause which Prabhupada is saying, that if at all we want to end all these quarrels and give up these petty issues, then it is only possible through Srimad Bhagavatam. For the very fact, the spiritual Srimad Bhagavatam is a cultural presentation for the re-spiritualization of the entire human society. Srimad Bhagavatam should be introduced also in the schools and colleges. This is a very important instruction for all of us. Srimad Bhagavatam should be introduced also in the schools and colleges, for it is recommended by the great student devotee Prahlad Maharaj in order to change the demoniac face of society. Quotation from Bhagavatam: Komaram acharet pragno dharman bhagavatan iha durlabam manusham janma tadapi adhruvam arthadam. Disparity in human society is due to lack of principles in a godless civilization. Yesterday we happened to go to one person. So he was also proclaiming that I don't believe in God, for me God is dead. So if I made him dead, then what is the relevance of God? So as usual, how Prabhupada actually tackles this, he says, what is the value of your opinion? Your opinion is coming from your mind, your mental concoctions. And just because you deny some fact doesn't mean that it has actually died or is no longer into existence. So the entire human society is going towards this lack of or godless civilization. So Prabhupada says, due to lack of principles in a godless civilization. What are those principles? Yesterday we were hearing from His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada in the Bhagavad Gita class. What is adharma? When a person forgets his occupational duty, identifies with something else, and starts thinking that what he is not. That's why Maya, that which is not. He starts thinking, I am the controller, I am the enjoyer. The moment a person thinks in that direction, all his activities are actually geared up to become the controller. And practically everyone in the human society or all living entities are trying to lord it over material nature. Especially in human form we can understand, in other forms they cannot understand. So, use of human intelligence. So that's why what Bhagavatam actually does is, it makes us into thinking. Think about what life is. That's why Prabhupada uses here, is felt by great thinkers. It has to make us become Jigyāsu. Jigyāsu Shreya Uttamam. And what kind of Jigyāsu? Shreya Uttamam. Shreya means for the ultimate benefit. There is God or the Almighty One from whom everything emanates, by whom everything is maintained, and in whom everything is merged to rest. Material science has tried to find the ultimate source of creation very insufficiently. But it is a fact that there is one ultimate source of everything that be. This ultimate source is explained rationally and authoritatively in the beautiful Bhagavatam or Srimad Bhagavatam. So then in this para, Prabhupada is again pushing us towards why this should be introduced in the colleges and schools, because Jigyasu or Jigyasa should begin from Kaumaram. In the very beginning, the child actually enters the 5th year. And what should be that Jigyasa? Dharman Bhagavatan-iha. That Jigyasa should be about Bhagavat Dharma. Prabhupada had taken Bhagavad Dharma series for 30 days in Bombay. It was entitled as Bhagavad Dharma. So what is Bhagavad Dharma? Dharma, as we understood it, is the occupational duty which cannot be changed. And that occupational duty is actually connected with Bhagavan, that ultimate source, which everything is coming from him, is maintained by him, and in everything after annihilation it will go back into him and rest, and again it will be recreated. So Prabhupada says, by our limited sense perception, we cannot actually come to the conclusion of understanding the absolute truth. Or the endeavors which have happened to find out the ultimate source is actually very insufficient. So whatever we try to do with our senses, we can only increase some few magnitude of the understanding. So for example, I can't see beyond 25 meters because my eyes are limited to that. With a telescope, I may be elongating it to some more kilometers. That's all. So my understanding will be limited to that because I am using an instrument which is made from limited senses. So that's why Prabhupada says material science has not come to that understanding of ultimate source of everything. And Srimad Bhagavatam is able to actually give that. Srimad Bhagavatam is the transcendental science not only for knowing the ultimate source of everything, but also for knowing our relation with Him and our duty toward perfection of human society on the basis of this perfect knowledge. So there is a basis. And what is that? It is not just knowing, okay, theek hai, ek Bhagwan baithe hain. Like many times when we ask people, no, yeah, there is one power. We should respect that power. But Bhagavatam is saying there is a relationship with that source, because He is the source of everything, means He is the source of you also. And you are related with Him, and you have a duty towards that source because you have come from Him. It is a powerful reading matter in the Sanskrit language, and it is now rendered into English elaborately, so that simply by a careful reading one will know God perfectly well, so much so that the reader will be sufficiently educated to defend himself from the onslaught of atheists. Over and above this, the reader will be able to convert others to accepting God as a concrete principle. So Prabhupada is actually talking about preaching. It's not just it's just not a book of knowledge. It's a book of realization. It's a book which we have to put into practice. And not only keep to practice, we have to help others also to understand. Because this is giving you the source, the absolute truth, the source of everything. That's the beauty about Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam begins with the definition of the ultimate source. It is a bona fide commentary on the Vedanta Sutra by the same author, Srila Vyasadeva, and gradually it develops into 9 cantos up to the highest state of God realization. What is another name of Vedanta Sutras? Brahma Sutra. Isn't it? Bhashyam Brahma Sutranam. What do you mean by Bhashya? Commentary. So, it's a natural commentary. And Prabhupada says a bona fide commentary on the Vedanta Sutra by the same author. That means, even the Vedanta Sutra was written by Vyasadeva, and he has given a bona fide commentary on this. What are sutras? Sutras are compact formulas. Like this very sutra. Janmadya asya yataha. Janmadya, where everything is actually beginning from. So now the question is, beginning from whom, where? So many questions will start coming. Who is that source? So there is a commentary required for us to understand this sutra. And that is what Srimad Bhagavatam is. The only qualification one needs to study this great book of transcendental knowledge is to proceed step by step cautiously and not jump forward haphazardly as with an ordinary book. It should be gone through chapter by chapter, one after another. The reading matter is so arranged with original Sanskrit text, its English transliteration, synonyms, translation and purports, so that one is sure to become a God-realized soul at the end of finishing the first 9 cantos. Then only we'll be able to understand the transcendental activities which are given in the 10th canto. The 10th canto is distinct from the first 9 cantos because it deals directly with the transcendental activities of the personality of Goddess Shri Krishna. One will be unable to capture the effects of the 10th canto without going through the first 9 cantos. The book is complete in 12 cantos, each independent, but it is good for all to read them in small installments one after another. Now Prabhupada is saying very important thing here. I must admit my frailties in presenting Srimad Bhagavatam. This is Prabhupada's humility. But still I am hopeful of its good reception by the thinkers and leaders of society on the strength of the following statement of Srimad Bhagavatam. What does Prabhupada actually call here? By the thinkers and leaders. So it is our duty to reach Srimad Bhagavatam to the thinkers and leaders of the society. तद्वाग विसर्गो जनताग विप्लवो यस्मिन् प्रतिश्लोकमबध्वत्यपि नामान्यनन्तस्य यशोऽङ्कितानि यत् शृण्वन्ति गायन्ति गृह्णन्ति साधवः. On the other hand, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, form and pastimes of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a transcendental creation meant for bringing about a revolution in the impious life of a misdirected civilization. So when does a revolution happen? Like this word here, meant for bringing about a revolution in the impious life of misdirected civilization. A revolution comes when one starts understanding what I'm trying to live, the life I'm living is actually not correct. It may be correct for everyone else, but then you realize and understand, no, this is not correct, this is not the right path. Like, we all know that USA was found by whom? Columbus. But actually his initial desire was to find India. Now, instead of going east, he went west. Further, he went west. And that's how he found USA. But his desire was to find this. So, many times when we actually have a goal in mind, but we go to a wrong path, we'll end up in a wrong destination. So, Prabhupada was giving class on Srimad Bhagavatam. Somebody asked him, so then if he continued going west, would he have reached India? Since the globe is round, Prabhupada says, yes, he might have reached India if he would have continued. But that would have taken very long. And Bhagavad Gita says, what does the Bhagavad Gita say? Bahunam janmanam ante jnanvan mam prapadyate vasudevam sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabha. So only a sudurlabha mahatma can understand Krishna, but he doesn't have to go through the jnana process. Klishyanti bodhaye. All our efforts will become waste if you try to hit an empty husk which already does not have the rice grain. That's what Brahmaji says in the 10th canto when he is offering prayers to Lord Krishna. Such transcendental literature, even though irregularly composed, irregularly composed, is heard, sang and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Shrinvanti, gayanti, grananti. 3 things are said here. Shrinvanti, by hearing, then gayanti, singing, and then grananti, accepting. Now this is what we have to do in our life. So these 3 things are very important, and that's how who do these 3 things? Sadhavaha, purified men. So unless we get purified of this misconception, it's impossible to understand the absolute truth, And then if we do not understand the absolute truth, then our whole human form of life is wasted. I'll also read the forward. This Bhagavad Puran is as brilliant as the sun, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied by religion, knowledge, etc. Persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance in the age of Kali shall get light from this Puran. Quotation Bhagavatam 1.3.43. The timeless wisdom of India is expressed in the Vedas, ancient Sanskrit texts that touch upon all fields of human knowledge. Originally preserved through oral tradition, the Vedas were first put into writing 5,000 years ago by Srila Vyasadeva, the literary incarnation of God. After compiling the Vedas, Vyasadeva set forth their essence in the aphorisms known as Vedanta Sutras. Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Puran is Vyasadeva's commentary on his own Vedanta Sutras. It was written in the maturity of his spiritual life under the direction of Narad Muni, his spiritual master. Referred to as the ripened fruit of the tree of Vedic literature, Srimad Bhagavatam is the most complete and authoritative exposition of Vedic knowledge. After compiling the Bhagavatam, Vyasa imparted the synopsis of it to his son, the sage Shukadeva Goswami. That's why it is said, very interesting statement is there. Chari Veda Dadhi. All the four Vedas are what? Dadhi means yogurt. Bhagavata Navaneet. Navaneet means butter. Chari Veda Dadhi Bhagavata Navaneet Mathilena Shukha Khailena Parikshit. So Krishna is known as Makhanchor, right? So what is the essence of this? If the Vedas are the yogurt, the essence of the yogurt is butter. Now, how do you get butter? You need a person who is expert in churning. That's why Prabhupada says, a bona fide spiritual master, parampara. Bhagavatam was spoken, imparted the synopsis of it to his son, Shukadeva Goswami. So, the synopsis was presented. What has he done? He has churned it and he has got the butter. And who is enjoying the butter? Khaile Parikshit. So, not only Krishna eats butter, but he wants us also to eat that butter. And we relish that butter, that rasa with the Lord. And that's what the Chaitanya Charitamrita tells us here about Bhagavatam. Shukadeva Goswami subsequently recited the entire Bhagavatam to Maharaj Parikshit in an assembly of learned saints on the bank of Ganges at Hastinapur, now Delhi. Where was Srimad Bhagavatam actually spoken? Shukratal. That's where Shukadeva Goswami had spoken to Maharaj Parikshit on the banks of the Ganges. Even today that place is there. Maharaj Parikshit was the emperor of the world and was a great Rajarishi, saintly king. Having received a warning that he would die within a week, he renounced his entire kingdom and retired to the bank of the Ganges to fast until death and receive spiritual enlightenment. The Bhagavatam begins with Emperor Parikshit's sober inquiry to Shukadeva Goswami. You are the spiritual master of great saints and devotees. I am therefore begging you to show the way of perfection for all persons, and especially for one who is about to die. Please let me know what a man should hear, chant, remember, and worship, and also what he should not do. Please explain all this to me. So actually we see Srimad Bhagavatam is a conversation, or as we say, Jigyasu Shayottamam. Jigyasu means putting forward your inquiries very submissively. Even the Bhagavad Gita says, Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshayantiti jnaninas tattvadarshina. We should go to a tattvadarshi and we should do three things. We should know from him. What? How do you know? The process of knowing is Tadvidi pranipatena prakashtanipena nipat. Nipat means for surrender. Then Pariprashnena, then sevaya. We have to submissively inquire and serve those instructions, serve the spiritual master with. That's why the service attitude is very essential. Service attitude actually brings in humility, which attracts the Lord. If we do not have the service attitude, then it's very difficult to realize our position, and it's very difficult to be humble. And when we are not humble and meek, then there is no way we can attract Krishna's attention. Shukadeva Goswami's answer to this question and numerous other questions posed by Maharaj Parikshit concerning everything from the nature of the self to the origin of the universe held the assembled sages in rapt attention continuously for 7 days leading up to the king's death. See, this is the beauty of this Srimad Bhagavatam. And a qualified speaker like Shukadeva Goswami and bona fide hearers like Parikshit Maharaj and the sages, they were able to continuously for 7 days, 7 nights without taking anything, no water, no sleep, nothing. Just wrapped in attention, hearing, because they had that burning desire to understand, to know. Vis-a-vis, when it comes to our case, we are not able to do this. We cannot imitate this. Why we cannot imitate? Because we are not so qualified. We are not at that platform. We do not have that kind of eagerness. Tomorrow death comes, I am ready because I am hearing Bhagavatam. But that will automatically come if we keep on doing what Srila Prabhupada has told us, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. The sage Suta Goswami, who was present in that assembly when Shukadeva Goswami first recited Srimad Bhagavatam, later repeated the Bhagavatam before a gathering of sages in the forest of Naimisharanya. How many sages were assembled? 88,000. Just imagine, 88,000 sages were assembled in Naimisharanya, and Suta Goswami was chosen to be the spokesperson, to be the reciter of Srimad Bhagavatam, the representative of Vyasadeva, and their other spokesperson on behalf of 88, because 88,000 sages speak where there is no sufficient time also. So what they decided is they chose one spokesperson among them who was qualified, whose name was Shaunak Rishi. Those sages concerned about the spiritual welfare of the people in general had gathered to perform a long continuous chain of sacrifices to counteract the degrading influence of the incipient age of Kali. In response to the sage's request that he speak the essence of Vedic wisdom, Suta Goswami repeated from memory. From where? From memory. He didn't have any notes, he didn't have the Bhagavatam written in hand. No. Suta Goswami repeated from memory the entire 18,000 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam as spoken by Shukadeva Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit. And not only that, he also did what? Explained the verses. When the sages had no clarity, they would just pause, they would ask. Now to remember one verse is very difficult for us. That is the degrading influence of the incipient age of Kali. Our memory goes down. Further we will see what are those symptoms of Kali. The reader of Srimad Bhagavatam hears Suta Goswami relate the questions of Maharaj Parikshit and the answers of Shukadeva Goswami. Also, so basically, practically when we are reading Bhagavatam, we'll be in the midst of such great personalities. You feel their presence through the transcendental vibration coming from a bona fide Acharya like Srila Prabhupada. It's like Prabhupada is speaking to you and telling you this is what is happening here. You're transported there. Your consciousness is transported in the midst of such great personalities. Who are those great personalities? Shukadeva Goswami, Parikshit Maharaj, 88,000 sages, Sonakadi Rishis, Suta Goswami. Also, Suta Goswami sometimes responded directly to questions put by Shaunak Rishi, the spokesman for the sages gathered at Naimisharanya. One therefore simultaneously hears two dialogues. What are those two dialogues? One between Maharaj Parikshit and Shukadeva Goswami on the bank of the Ganges, and another at Naimisharanya between Suta Goswami and the sages at Naimisharanya forest headed by Shaunaka Rishi. Furthermore, while instructing King Parikshit, Shukadeva Goswami often relates historical episodes and gives accounts of lengthy philosophical discussions between such great souls as Narad Muni and Vasudeva. With this understanding of the history of the Bhagavatam, the reader will easily be able to follow its intermingling of dialogues and events from various sources. So there are lots of great personalities whom we will be hearing when we read the Srimad Bhagavatam. Since philosophical wisdom, not chronological order, is most important in the text, that's why Bhagavatam is not a chronological representation. Rather, it is philosophical presentation. The philosophical wisdom is most important in the text. One need only be attentive to the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam to appreciate fully its profound message. So what's required is one should be very attentive. The translators of this edition compare the Bhagavatam to sugar candy. Wherever you taste it, you will find it equally sweet and relishable. Therefore, to taste the sweetness of the Bhagavatam one may begin by reading any of its volumes. After such an introductory taste, however, the serious reader is best advised to go back to the first canto and then proceed through the Bhagavatams canto after canto in its natural order. Of course, as we all know, when this preface was written or forward was written, that time the entire Bhagavatam sets were not available. So whatever is available, the publishers or the editors were saying, you can read from there. But then if you want to become a serious student, you should read it from the very beginning, Canto 1 to Canto 12. This edition of the Bhagavatam is the first complete English translation of this important text with an elaborate commentary, and it is the first widely available to the English-speaking public. The first 12 volumes, Canto 1 through Canto 10, Part 1, are the product of the scholarly and devotional effort of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness and world's most distinguished teacher of Indian religious and philosophical thought. His consummate Sanskrit scholarship and intimate familiarity with Vedic culture and thought, as well as the modern way of life, combined to reveal to the West a magnificent exposition of this important classic. Readers will find this work of value for many reasons. For those interested in the classical roots of Indian civilization, it serves as a vast reservoir of detailed information on virtually every one of its aspects. For students of comparative philosophy and religion, the Bhagavatam offers a penetrating view into the meaning of India's profound spiritual heritage. To sociologists and anthropologists, the Bhagavatam reveals the practical workings of a peaceful and scientifically organized Vedic culture, whose institutions were integrated on the basis of a highly developed spiritual worldview. Students of literature will discover the Bhagavatam to be a masterpiece of majestic poetry. For students of psychology, the text provides important perspectives on the nature of consciousness, human behavior, and the philosophical study of identity. Finally, to those seeking spiritual insight, the Bhagavatam offers simple and practical guidance for attainment of the highest self-knowledge and realization of the Absolute Truth. The entire multi-volume text presented by the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust promises to occupy a significant place in the intellectual, cultural and spiritual life of modern man for a long time to come. So, I'll just read the introduction, one page, and then we will close. The conception of God and the conception of Absolute Truth are not on the same level. The Srimad Bhagavatam hits on the target of absolute truth. The conception of God indicates the controller, whereas the conception of the absolute truth indicates the summum bonum, or the ultimate source of all energies. There is no difference of opinion about the personal feature of God as a controller, because a controller cannot be impersonal. Of course, modern government, especially democratic government, is impersonal to some extent, but ultimately the chief executive head is a person, and the impersonal feature of government is subordinate to the personal feature. So without a doubt, whenever we refer to control over others, we must admit the existence of a personal feature. Because there are different controllers for different managerial positions, there may be many small gods. According to Bhagavad Gita, any controller who has some specific extraordinary power is called a Vibhutimat Sattva, or controller empowered by the Lord. There are many Vibhutimat Sattvas, controllers of gods with various specific powers, but the absolute truth is one without a second. This Srimad Bhagavatam designates the absolute truth or Samam Bhavanam as the Param Satyam. The author of Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Vyasadeva, first offers his respectful obeisances unto the Param Satyam, absolute truth, and because the Param Satyam is the ultimate source of all energies, the Param Satyam is the Supreme Person. The gods or the controllers are undoubtedly persons, but the Param Satyam from whom gods derive powers of control is the Supreme Person. The Sanskrit word Ishwar, controller, conveys the import of God, but the Supreme Person is called Parameshwar or the Supreme Ishvara. The Supreme Person or Parameshwar is the Supreme Conscious Personality, and because he does not derive any power from any other source, he is supremely independent. In the Vedic literatures, Brahma is described as the supreme god or the head of all other gods like Indra, Chandra, Varun. But the Srimad Bhagavatam confirms that even Brahma is not independent as far as his power and knowledge are concerned. He received knowledge in the form of the Vedas from the Supreme Person who resides within the heart of every living being. That Supreme Personality knows everything directly and indirectly. Individual infinitesimal persons who are parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality may know directly and indirectly everything about their bodies or external features, but the Supreme Personality knows everything about both his external and internal features. The words Janmadyasya suggests that the source of all production, maintenance or destruction is the same Supreme Conscious Person. Even in our present experience, we can know that nothing is generated from inert matter, but inert matter can be generated from the living entity. For instance, by contact with a living entity, the material body develops into a working machine. Men with a poor fund of knowledge mistake the bodily machinery to be the living being. But the fact is that the living being is the basis of the bodily machine. The bodily machine is useless as soon as the living spark is away from it. Similarly, the original source of all material energy is the Supreme Person. This fact is expressed in all Vedic literatures, and all the exponents of spiritual science have accepted this truth. The living force is called Brahman, and one of the greatest acharyas, teachers, namely Shripad Shankaracharya, has preached that Brahman is substance, whereas the cosmic world is category. The original source of all energies is the living force, and he is logically accepted as the Supreme Person. He is therefore conscious of everything past, present, and future, and also of each and every corner of his manifestations, both material and spiritual. An imperfect living being does not even know what is happening within his own personal body. He eats his food but does not know how this food is transformed into energy or how it sustains his body. When a living being is perfect, he is aware of everything that happens, and since the Supreme Person is all perfect, it is quite natural that he knows everything in all detail. Consequently, the perfect personality is addressed in the Srimad Bhagavatam as Vasudev, or one who lives everywhere in full consciousness and in full possession of his complete energy. All of this is clearly explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the reader has ample opportunity to study this critically. In the modern age, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu preached the Srimad Bhagavatam by practical demonstration. It is easier to penetrate into the topics of Srimad Bhagavatam through the medium of Sri Chaitanya's causeless mercy. Therefore, a short sketch of his life and precepts is inserted herein to help the reader understand the real merit of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, there is a nice verse by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He says, Aradhya Bhagavan Vajeshatanayastad Dhama Vrindavan Ramya Kajit Upasana Vrajavadu Vargenaya Kalpita Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanam Amalam. What is Srimad Bhagavatam? It's Pramanam, is evidence. And what kind of evidence it is? Amalam. Spotless. No mal. There is no dirt. And what does it actually give? Prema Pumartho Mahan. It will bring us to the level of love of Godhead. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabho Matamidam. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Matam, opinion. Tatradharaha na paraha. There is nothing more superior than this. So there are 5 aspects here. Krishna is the object of worship. His dham is as good as the Lord. Upasana, the worship which is actually done perfectly, is through the damsels of Vrindavan, the gopis, and the pramanam is Srimad Bhagavatam, and the earth, the goal of life should be love of Godhead. So I'll stop here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande.